My daughter-in-law called the police to our home. She's unstable and a danger to my children. I just looked at the officer and said, "Please come in. I have something to show you." Her lies evaporated the moment I hit play. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. It all started with a lie. As so many things in this house did. My daughter-in-law Keisha was in her studio, which was really just the beige and white living room I was forced to sit in. A room that looked less like a home and more like an unbuyable Instagram ad. She had her professional ring light on, her phone on a tripod, and her mommy voice activated. It was a high, sing-song, artificially sweet voice that grated on my nerves like styrofoam on glass. "And so, sweetie," she cooed, "when we make a little mess, what do we do? Do we cry?" My 7-year-old granddaughter Jada was the other actor in this production. She was dressed in a $200 linen outfit, a costume for the perfect rustic childhood Keisha was trying to sell to her 50,000 followers. Jada, who was visibly nervous, shook her head. "That's right," Keisha chirped. "We don't cry, we just remember that spills are skills. Right? We're learning." She panned the camera down to a small puddle of water she had deliberately poured on the hardwood floor. Jitty on cue picked up a perfectly folded, aesthetically matching cloth and began to dab at it, her movements stiff and practiced. "That's my good girl," Keisha said, panning the camera back to her own face, her smile wide and gleaming. "Here in this house we don't believe in bad kids. We just believe in teachable moments. It's all about gentle parenting, mamas. Remember to be kind to yourselves. And be kind to your littles." She blew a kiss at the phone and hit stop. The change was instant. The second the red light went off, Keisha's face dropped. The bright, warm smile vanished, replaced by a tight, cold mask of annoyance. "Finally," she hissed. She looked at Jada, who had frozen, still dabbing at the non-existent spill. "Get up, Jada, you wrinkled the outfit. Look at you. You're all bunched up. Go to your room and change. And don't run, you'll get sweaty. Useless." Jada flinched, as if she'd been struck. "Yes, mommy," she whispered, and scurried away, her shoulders hiked up to her ears. I sat in my armchair in the corner, a book open on my lap. I was the silent, invisible audience. The prop grandma. I was Brenda, 64 years old, a retired middle school principal, and I was, according to my son David, just here to help. I had been a principal for 40 years. I had seen everything. I had dealt with troubled kids, with abusive parents, with narcissistic teachers. I knew human nature, and I knew with a certainty that chilled my bones, that my daughter-in-law was a performer, and like all performers she hated a bad review. I said nothing. I just turned the page of my book. But in my mind, I was documenting. I was observing. It was a habit I couldn't break, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this performance was about to turn into a full-blown tragedy. I went to my room, the guest suite that was now my permanent home. When my dear husband Samuel passed 2 years ago, my son David had begged me to move in. "Mom, you can't be alone in that big house," he'd said, his eyes full of what I, at the time, mistook for concern. "Sell it, move in with us. Keisha and I want to take care of you. We want the kids to know you." I had been so touched. I sold my paid-off home, the house I had lived in for 30 years, and I gave a large portion of the proceeds to David and Keisha for their trouble. They had, of course, immediately used it to remodel the kitchen into the beige and white content studio I was now forced to live in. It took me exactly 1 week to realize I had made a terrible mistake. I was not mom or grandma. I was an intruder. I was a meddler. And my 40 years of experience in child development were, according to Keisha, old-fashioned, judgmental, and toxic. I saw the way she spoke to Jada and Miles when she thought I wasn't listening, the constant low-level hiss of criticism. "Stop that. You're too loud. Don't touch that. Why can't you be perfect?" I saw the way my grandchildren, who were bright, happy, normal children, would go silent and stiff the moment their mother entered the room. They were walking on eggshells, all day, every day. I was a principal. I had a duty of care. I had seen this before. I had seen this level of narcissism and emotional volatility in parents, and it never ended well for the children. I knew I couldn't fix Keisha, but I also knew I could not, in good conscience, leave those children alone with her. So, I began to do what I had always done with a problem teacher or a suspected bully. I began to document. I went to my desk and picked up a simple black USB charger block, the kind you see everywhere. It was plugged into the wall outlet in the living room right behind the beige sofa. It looked for all the world like a simple phone charger. It was not. It was a high-fidelity, voice-activated audio recorder. It didn't store anything locally. It had its own hidden SIM card. The moment it detected a voice, it began recording and uploading the encrypted audio file directly to a secure private cloud server, a server that also helpfully ran an AI transcription service. I was a 64-year-old woman. Keisha thought I was a senile old fool who didn't know how to use the interwebs. She had no idea that I, as a principal, had overseen the implementation of my entire school district's digital security infrastructure. I sat at my laptop and opened the program. There it was. A log of every conversation that had happened in that living room for the past 6 months. I clicked on the most recent file, the one from 20 minutes ago. The transcription popped up. Keisha sing-song. Gentle parenting mamas. Keisha hiss you wrinkled the outfit. Useless. I called my program the Chronicler. I had started it for my own protection, fearing Keisha would one day accuse me of something. Now I saw it for what it was. It was not just my shield, it was my weapon. The incident that sealed our silent Cold War had happened last week. It was a Tuesday. I was in the kitchen, and Miles, my 5-year-old grandson, was in the living room, playing with his building blocks. He was a sweet, sensitive boy and he was struggling to build a tower. It fell, clattering to the floor. Fine. I heard Keisha snap. She wasn't filming. This was the real Keisha. I'll do it. She got on the floor and began aggressively, quickly building a perfect, symmetrical, boring tower. See? It's not that hard, Miles. You just do it. Why are you so stupid? Miles, his lower lip trembling, tried to place a block. His hand was shaking and he knocked it over again. Oh my God. Keisha screamed, the sound so sharp it made me jump. You can't do anything right, can you? You are a failure. Get away from me. You're making me stressed. Miles didn't just cry. He went silent. He backed away, his little body trembling, and he curled up on the bottom step of the stairs, his thumb in his mouth rocking. I had seen enough. I walked into the living room, my heart a cold, hard knot of rage. Keisha was on her phone, scrolling. The failed tower forgotten. I did not speak to her. I walked past her as if she were invisible and sat on the step next to my grandson. I didn't crowd him. I just sat. After a minute I spoke. My voice low and calm. That's a tricky set of blocks, isn't it, sweetie? I said. He nodded, his eyes wide with unshed tears. I used to have trouble with those too. I lied. My hands would get all shaky. You know the secret? The secret is to build a base. I took 2 blocks and set them parallel. See? You have to give it strong feet, like you. He watched me. His rocking slowed. He reached out a small, hesitant hand and took a block. Like this, Grandma. That's exactly right, Miles, I said, my voice full of a warmth I hadn't felt in days. You have such smart, strong hands. Let's build the biggest, strongest, messiest tower in the world. A tower for a giant. For the next 10 minutes we built a glorious, lopsided, colorful mess. When we were done, Miles let out a real, genuine laugh and toppled it over. He was a kid again. He then turned, wrapped his arms around my neck, and whispered, his voice a tiny, heartbreaking secret in my ear. I wish you were my real mom, Grandma. Mommy is mean. I hugged him tight. I'm always here, baby. Always. I looked up. Keisha was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, her phone in her hand. She wasn't filming. She was just watching. Her eyes were not angry. They were dead. It was the look of a queen whose subject had just publicly declared allegiance to another ruler. It was a declaration of war. That night, I heard the argument. My suite was next to their master bedroom, and the walls were, as in all modern houses, far too thin. I heard Keisha's voice, not her shriek, but her low, venomous, controlled rage. She is undermining me, David. Did you hear what he said? I wish you were my real mom. She is poisoning my own children against me. In my own house. Then my son's voice, weak, tired, pleading. Keisha, baby, come on. She's just an old lady. She's just playing with him. It's not that deep. She's my mother. I don't care if she's your mother. Keisha shrieked, the control breaking. She is disrespecting me. She is telling my children that I am a bad mother, and you just let her. You let her walk all over me. What do you want me to do, Keisha? She's grieving. Her husband just died. I am sick of hearing about your dead father, she screamed. That was 2 years ago. She's not grieving, she's meddling. She's a controlling, judgmental old woman, and I want her out. You handle it, David. You handle it, or I swear to God I will. The door slammed. I heard her stomp down the stairs, probably to the guest room on the other side of the house. 10 minutes later there was a soft, hesitant knock on my door. It was David. He came in, his shoulders slumped, his face a mask of exhaustion. He wouldn't look at me, he just wrung his hands. Mom, he said, staring at my carpet. Can you just back off a little? Back off? I asked, my voice calm though my heart was breaking for him, for the weak, terrified man my son had become. With Keisha. With the kids. You're stressing her out. She feels like you're judging her parenting. I am, I said simply. He winced. Mom, don't, that's not helping. You're not the principal here. This isn't one of your problem families. This is my family, and I need you to just be a grandma. Bake cookies. Knit. I don't know, but this intervention stuff, you're not helping. I looked at him. My son, the man I had raised to be strong, now reduced to a shuffling, terrified messenger for his abusive wife. David, I said, my voice cold and clear. A child was in distress. He was called stupid and a failure. I did what was right. I will always do what is right by those children. He finally looked at me, his eyes pleading. And you'll lose your son in the process? Is that what you want, Mom? Because that's the choice. It's her or you. And I choose her. So please, just back off. He didn't wait for an answer. He just sighed, a deep rattling, defeated sound, and walked out of my room, closing the door softly behind him as if he were the one in mourning. After that night, the atmosphere in the house changed. Keisha stopped fighting with me. She became sweet, dangerously sweet. Oh, Brenda, good morning, she'd trill, coming into the kitchen where I was having my tea. I made you a smoothie, full of antioxidants. We have to keep you healthy. She was performing, but not for Instagram, for David. She was playing the part of the caring, concerned daughter-in-law, and I was the project. I knew what this was. I'd seen it in manipulative, narcissistic faculty members. She wasn't trying to make peace. She was building a case. Her new strategy was brilliant, in its own sociopathic way, to prove I was senile and unstable. It started small. My heart medication, which I kept on my bathroom counter, vanished. I searched my room for an hour, my panic rising. I finally went to Keisha, my voice tight. Keisha, have you seen my beta blockers? I can't find them. Her face was a mask of Oscar-worthy concern. Oh my gosh, Brenda, no, where did you last see them? She helped me look. And of course she found them. In the kitchen trash can. Brenda, she gasped, pulling them out. Oh, my God, you must have thrown them out by mistake. See, David, she called to my son, who was watching from the doorway. This is what I'm talking about. She's forgetful. It's scary. What if she, I don't know, forgotten to turn off the stove? David just looked at me, his face full of a new dawning horror. He believed her. The next phase was her phone. She started filming me, not for Instagram but for her own evidence file. I'd be sitting in the living room, reading my book, and I'd see her filming me from the kitchen doorway.
What are you doing, Keisha?
I'd ask. Oh, nothing, Brenda, she'd say, all smiles. Just, you looked so sweet, so peaceful, just staring. I wasn't staring, I was thinking, or reading, but she was building a narrative. David, I heard her whisper to him that night, her voice full of fake, breaking tears.
I'm worried about her. I really am.
She just stares all day. She doesn't engage, and I don't know if she's safe around Jada and Miles. She seems so, and she's so judgmental. What if she hurts them thinking she's disciplining them? I don't feel safe. She was laying the trap, meticulously. She wasn't just a momfluencer. She was a con artist, and I, her unstable mother-in-law, was the mark. She wasn't just trying to get me to back off anymore. She was trying to get me removed. The day of the 911 call, the pressure in the house was unbearable. I could feel it, a low, electric hum of rage coming from Keisha's home office. She had been on a tense conference call all morning. I heard snippets through her door. What do you mean, terminated? My brand is authenticity. You can't just... She had lost a major brand partnership, one she'd been bragging about for weeks. The authentic momfluencer had apparently been caught trying to pass off a stock photo as her own. She was hemorrhaging followers and, more importantly, money. She stormed out of her office at 3 p.m., her face a pale, tight mask of fury. She was a bomb, and she was looking for a detonator. She found Jada. My granddaughter was sitting at the kitchen island, quietly, perfectly, doing her homework. She had a small glass of apple juice. Keisha stalked into the kitchen, grabbed a glass and yanked the refrigerator door open. As she did, her elbow, whether by accident or on purpose, I'll never know, knocked the glass of apple juice. It went flying, a perfect amber arc, right onto the center of the pristine white, $8,000 rug. Jada froze. Her eyes went wide. Mommy, Keisha turned. Slowly. She looked at the spill. She looked at Jada. And she exploded. It was not the gentle parent. It was not even the hissing mom. This was a new level. This was a primal, unrestrained, terrifying tirade. You idiot. She screamed, her voice cracking. You worthless, clumsy, stupid little... You ruin everything. Look at it. Look at it. Do you know how much this rug cost? Do you? Of course you don't. You don't know anything. You can't do one thing right. You will never be good enough. Jada was not just crying. She was frozen, paralyzed. Her face was white, her little body trembling so hard she looked like she was vibrating. She was in terror. This was not bad parenting. This was not stress. This was abuse. This was the moment that every principal, every person with a conscience dreads. The moment you can no longer be a silent observer. I had been in my suite. I heard the glass break. I heard the screaming, and I knew with absolute certainty that my time as a documenter was over. It was time to be a protector. I walked out of my suite and stood at the entrance to the kitchen. The scene was frozen. Jada, paralyzed with fear. Keisha, standing over her, her face purple, her finger jabbing at the air, her mouth still open from her last venomous word. Keisha, I said. My voice was not loud. It was not angry. It was the voice I used to use when I had to stop a fistfight in the hallway. It was my principal voice. It was cold, clear, and absolute. It carried an authority that had nothing to do with emotion. Keisha spun around, startled. She hadn't heard me approach. What? She shrieked. Get out. I am handling this. No, I said, taking a calm step into the kitchen, placing myself between Keisha and my granddaughter. You are not. You are abusing her. Keisha's eyes went wide. The audacity, the interference. How dare you? She sputtered. You, who do you think you are? I am the mother. You are nothing. You are just a sad, old, senile woman living in my house. I am this child's grandmother, I said, my voice as cold and hard as granite. And I am the adult in this room who is not having a public tantrum. You will not speak to your daughter that way. You are terrifying her. You owe her an apology. An apology? She laughed, a high, hysterical sound. An apology? I owe her? She just ruined my rug. You've done this. You, with your meddling, you've made her weak. Keisha, that is enough, I said, using the exact same tone. I did not raise my voice. I was in complete control. And Keisha for the first time saw that she was not. She was losing. Her daughter was cowering behind my legs. Her son David was still at work. She had no audience, no ally. And I, the senile old woman, was not backing down. I saw the look in her eyes. I had seen it before, in children who were caught in an undeniable lie. The rage, the panic. And then, the sudden, terrible, brilliant idea. The way out. Her face, a moment ago a mask of purple rage, suddenly changed. It crumpled. Her eyes filled with tears. Her voice, a moment ago a shriek, became a high, terrified whimper. You're right, she whispered, her eyes wide, looking past me as if at a monster. You're scaring me. You're scaring Jada. She snatched her phone from the counter, her hands visibly trembling. What are you doing, Keisha? I asked, my voice still calm though I knew what was coming. I'm calling for help, she sobbed, her fingers stabbing at the screen. She dialed 911. Help, please. My mother-in-law. She's having an episode. She's unstable. She's a danger to my children. She's threatening us. Please. You have to hurry. 104 Willow Creek. Please. She dropped the phone, collapsed onto the floor and began to sob, all while looking at me with a smile of pure demonic triumph. She had finally done it. She had reversed the roles. She was the victim. I was the monster. And the police were on their way. I stood my ground, my body a silent shield in front of my trembling granddaughter. I am protecting my grandchild, I repeated, my voice like ice from you. Keisha's eyes, a moment ago wide with rage, narrowed into a look of pure reptilian calculation. I had seen this look before. It was the look of a cornered animal, one that was about to do something desperate, unpredictable, and devastating. Her face, a moment ago a mask of purple rage, suddenly changed. It crumpled, her eyes filled with tears. Her voice, a moment ago a shriek, became a high, terrified whimper. You're right, she whispered, her eyes wide, looking past me as if at a monster I couldn't see. You're scaring me. You're scaring Jada. She snatched her phone from the counter, her hands visibly trembling. What are you doing, Keisha? I asked, my voice still calm, though I knew what was coming. I knew the script. This was the final, nuclear option of the narcissist, to play the victim. I'm calling for help, she sobbed, her fingers stabbing at the screen. She dialed 911. Her performance was, I had to admit, masterful. It was instantaneous and utterly convincing. Help, please. My mother-in-law, she cried into the phone, her voice breaking. She's having an episode. She's at 104 Willow Creek. She's unstable. She's a danger to my children. She's threatening us. Please, you have to hurry. She's not well. Please. She dropped the phone, collapsed onto the floor in a heap of designer linen and began to sob, all while looking at me with a smile of pure demonic triumph. She had done it. She had finally done it. She had reversed the roles. She was the terrified, victimized mother. I was the senile, unstable, dangerous monster. At that exact moment, as if summoned by the sheer theatrical force of her lies, I heard a car door slam in the driveway. It was David. Home early from work. He walked in, his tie loosened, his briefcase in hand, and froze. He saw his daughter, white as a sheet, hiding behind me. He saw his wife, hysterical, sobbing on the floor. He saw me standing over her, calm and resolute. What the hell is going on? He breathed. Keisha's head snapped up. David. Oh, thank God, she wailed, crawling toward him. Your mother. She snapped. She attacked Jada. She's been threatening us. I was so scared. I had to call the police. David's face went pale. He looked at me, his eyes full of confusion and then, inevitably, of betrayal. He believed her. Mom, he whispered, his voice an accusation. Before I could answer, there was a heavy official thump 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 on the front door. They're here, Keisha sobbed, clinging to David's leg. Thank God, they're here. Save us, David. Save us from your mother. David, his face a mask of pale, confused terror, opened the door. 2 police officers were standing on the mat. One was older, mid-50s, with a stern, tired face that had seen everything. I'd call him Officer Miller. The other was younger, mid-30s, with a kind, sympathetic face. Officer Chen. Sir, we received a 911 call about a domestic disturbance. An unstable individual threatening children. Officer Miller said, his eyes scanning past David, into the living room. Keisha, seeing her new audience, escalated. Her sobs became heart-wrenching, gasping cries. She scrambled to her feet and grabbed Jada, who was still standing by me, and yanked her daughter to her chest. Jada flinched, but Keisha held her like a shield. Officers, thank God you're here, she cried, playing her part perfectly to the younger, sympathetic officer. It's my mother-in-law, Brenda. She's not well. Officer Chen stepped inside, his hand on his taser, his voice calm and de-escalating. Mom, what happened here? She's been getting worse, Keisha sobbed, tears streaming down her face, her makeup which I knew was waterproof running perfectly. She's forgetful. She threw out her heart medication. I found it in the trash. And she just stares all day. And then, she snapped. She pointed a shaking finger at the spilled apple juice. Jada had a little accident. And Brenda she just lost it. She started screaming at her, grabbing her. She said she was a danger. I was so scared for my baby. She clutched Jada tighter, who was now just mute, her face buried in her mother's chest, her small body rigid with a terror that was real, but not for the reason Keisha was performing. Officer Miller looked at me. I was just standing silent by my armchair, my hands loosely clasped. I was not crying, I was not screaming, I was just watching. And you, sir? Officer Miller said, turning to my son. David, oh David, my weak, terrified, broken son. He couldn't look at me, he just wrung his hands, his eyes darting between his weeping, hysterical wife, and the two armed officers in his living room. I just got home, he stammered. But, my wife, Keisha, she's been worried for weeks. My mom, she has been under a lot of stress. Her husband, my father, he passed, and I think my wife is right. She's not herself. She's been off. He had done it. He had corroborated the lie. He had chosen his wife's performance over his mother's reality. He had in that moment validated the accusation that I was unstable. Keisha's sobs hitched, a small triumphant validating sound. She had her audience. She had her co-star. The stage was set. I was the villain. Officer Miller, the stern one, turned his full appraising and deeply skeptical gaze on me. I was the anomaly. I was the unstable one, yet I was the only person in the room who wasn't shaking, crying, or sweating. I was just standing, my book still in my left hand, a silent 64-year-old woman in a simple cardigan. Mom, he said, his voice a gravelly monotone. You've heard the accusations. Your daughter-in-law says you snapped, but you're a danger to these children, that you've been off. What do you have to say for yourself? I took a breath. I met his gaze and I held it. I was not a suspect. I was a principal, and he was in my office. Good afternoon, officers, I said. My voice, I was pleased to hear, was perfectly calm. It did not tremble. It did not rise. It was the voice I had used for 40 years to command respect. My name is Brenda Wallace. I am 64 years old. For 40 years until my retirement last May, I was the principal of Westview Middle School. I saw Officer Miller's eyebrows raise. Just a fraction. He knew the school I had just in one sentence established my credibility, my profession, and my long documented history of caring for children, not threatening them. I am not unstable, I continued. I am not senile, and I have not at any time threatened anyone in this house. I am, however, deeply, profoundly concerned for the welfare of my grandchildren. Keisha let out a theatrical gasp. See? She's projecting. She's delusional. She's paranoid. I held up a single calm hand. Officer, my daughter-in-law Keisha is what we in education call a performer. She is very, very concerned with her public image. What you are seeing, I gestured to her, still sobbing on David's shoulder, is a performance, a very convincing performance. I'll grant you, but it is one she staged for you. Mom, that's a serious accusation. Officer Chen, the sympathetic one, began. It is, I agreed, and I would not make it without proof. You are here on a wellness check, and a report of a threat. You must investigate. I am not a threat. The children, however, are, but not from me. I gestured to the beige sofa. Please, officers, come in, sit down. David, Keisha, you should sit too. They looked at me, confused. The power dynamic had just shifted, and they weren't sure how. I had just invited the police to sit down. Ma'am, what? I have something to show you, I said. I believe you're here under false pretenses, and as a former principal, I am a firm believer in documentation. Keisha has made her accusation. Now I would like to present my evidence. The officers, intrigued by my absolute professional calm, and perhaps a little tired of Keisha's high-pitched sobbing, looked at each other. Officer Miller nodded. Okay, ma'am, show us what you've got. We all gathered in the living room. It was a tableau of absurdity. Officer Miller and Officer Chen sat, awkwardly on Keisha's perfect beige, linen blend sofa. Keisha sat on the matching armchair opposite them, clutching Jetta to her chest. She was still performing, rubbing Jetta's back, whispering, "It's okay, baby, the nice men are here to help." She shot me a look of pure triumphant hatred. She thought I was about to show them a photo album, or my knitting, or some other proof of my senility. David, my son, was pacing behind her chair, his hands buried in his hair, just muttering, "Oh God, oh God." I sat in my armchair, the one I always sat in, and pulled my laptop from the side table. It was always there. I opened it. "Oh God," Keisha whispered to David, loud enough for the officers to hear. "She's probably going to show them her knitting blog. See what I mean? She's lost it." I ignored her. I opened a program on my desktop. The officers leaned forward. Officer Chen, still trying to be kind, asked, "Ma'am, what are you showing us? A website?" "No, officer," I said, turning the laptop so they could see the screen. "As a principal, I learned a long time ago that the most important thing in any conflict is documentation. You cannot rely on hearsay." She said, "You must have a record. You must have proof." "Keisha, you are worried I'm a danger. I, on the other hand, am worried you are." So, about 6 months ago, I began keeping a record, for my own protection and for the protection of Jada and Miles. I showed them the program. It had a clean, simple, professional interface. The title on the top read, "The Chronicler Secure Audio Transcription." The main screen was a long scrollable list of audio files, all neatly labeled with date and timestamps. "This," I said, "is a live feed from a secure voice-activated audio device plugged into this room." I pointed discreetly to the simple black USB charger in the wall socket behind them. "It's been here for 6 months. It records, encrypts and uploads every conversation in this room to a secure cloud server which also helpfully transcribes it. It's a hobby of mine." Keisha's face, which had been set in a smirk of smug victory, faltered. Her eyes darted to the USB charger, and then back to my screen. The blood was draining from her face. You've been spying on me," she whispered, her voice no longer a sob, but a low, venomous hiss. "I've been documenting," I corrected her, "in my own home, and I'm so glad I did, because it allows me to show the officers what actually happened here today. Let's review the tape, shall we?" I clicked on the top file, the one labeled, No 5/2025, 3:15 p.m. Duration 22 minutes. "This," I said, "is from, just about 25 minutes ago, right before you called, Keisha. Please, listen. And listen closely." I hit play. I didn't turn the volume up. I didn't need to. The recording was crystal clear. The high-fidelity microphone in the Chronicler was, as advertised, professional grade. The first sound that filled the silent beige room was the sound of a glass breaking, a small shatter followed by a splash. Then Jada's small, terrified voice, "Mommy, and then, Keisha." It was not the high, whimpering, sobbing voice the officers had just heard. It was a raw, vicious, terrifying scream. To Keisha's voice, screaming, "You idiot. You worthless, clumsy, stupid little you ruined everything. Look at it. Look at it. Do you know how much this rug cost? Do you? Of course you don't. You don't know anything. You can't do one thing right. You will never be good enough." I watched the officers. Officer Chen's sympathetic face hardened, his jaw clenched. Officer Miller's eyes, the seen it all tired eyes, narrowed. He looked at Jada, who was now trying to pull away from Keisha's grip, and then he looked back at the laptop. Jada's voice sobbing, "I'm sorry, Mommy. I'm sorry, it was an accident." Then, my voice, calm, firm and cold. Grenda's voice, calm, firm. "Keisha, that is enough. You will not speak to your daughter that way. Apologize to her." Keisha's voice, "How dare you? Who do you think you are? I am the mother, you are nothing. You are just a sad, old, senile woman living in my house." I watched David. He had stopped pacing. He was as white as the walls. He was staring at his wife, his mouth half open. He was hearing, perhaps for the first time, the real poison she spat when he wasn't around. Brenda's voice, "I am protecting my grandchild from you." And then, the most damning part, the part I knew would end this. Keisha's voice. The shift. The audio was so clear you could hear the exact millisecond her voice changed. It went from a raw, vicious shriek to a high, tearful, theatrical whimper. You're right. You're scaring me. You're scaring Jada. Brenda on tape. What are you doing, Keisha? Keisha on tape, sobbing. Shalted 911 dialing. Help please. My mother-in-law. She's having an episode. She's unstable. I hit stop. The silence in the room was absolute. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket. Keisha, in the present, was no longer crying. She was just staring, open-mouthed at the laptop. Her mask hadn't just slipped. It had been shattered. She was shaking her head. No, that's edited. That's out of context. Officer Miller, the stern one, slowly, deliberately took off his hat. He placed it in his lap. He looked at Keisha with a profound, professional and utterly weary disappointment. Ma'am, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. You called 911. You reported a threat. An unstable, senile woman grabbing and threatening a child. She is, Keisha stammered, her eyes darting between the two officers, looking for an ally. That's edited. You can't just record me in my own home. That's illegal. Ma'am? Officer Miller said, holding up a hand. I'm not a lawyer, but in this state we're a one-party consent state for audio recordings. And the woman who owns the recording device, he gestured to me, clearly consented, so that's not the issue here. The issue, Officer Chen said, his sympathetic face now gone, replaced by a cold, sharp disgust, is that we heard you, in your own words, manufacture this entire event. We heard you screaming at that little girl. We heard you call her worthless and stupid, and we heard this woman, he nodded to me, calmly intervening. And then Officer Miller continued, we heard you plain as day, fake your fear and fake your sob story to a 911 dispatcher. The exact same story you just told us. He stood up. He was a big man and his presence suddenly filled the room. Ma'am, do you have any idea what the penalty is for filing a false report, for wasting city resources? We have real emergencies. We have people who are actually in danger. And we're here, in your perfect beige living room, because you were losing an argument with your mother-in-law. I was scared. Keisha tried. One last pathetic time. No, Miller said, his voice sharp. You were caught, and you were angry, and you used 911 as a weapon. You used your own children as props in your little show. Mom, of everyone in this room, the only person who sounds unstable is you. David was pale, translucent. I didn't know. Officers, she's under a lot of stress. Officer Miller turned his gaze on David. It was not a kind gaze. And you, sir, you stood by and let this happen. You corroborated her story. You told us your mother wasn't herself. Seems to me she's the only one here who is. You're a part of this lie, son. David just crumpled, sinking onto the arm of the sofa, his head in his hands. His united front with his wife had just destroyed him. Officer Chen, his face full of a new, real and different kind of sympathy, knelt by my chair. Ma'am, Mrs. Wallace, you said you've been documenting. I nodded. Yes, officer, for 6 months, since I moved in and recognized the pattern of behavior. Do you have other recordings of incidents like this? He asked, his voice low. Keisha's head snapped up, her eyes wide with a new dawning horror. You've been spying on me for 6 months? I've been documenting, I said again, ignoring her. I turned to Officer Chen. I have over 1,200 hours of audio, all transcribed and archived in the cloud. Would you like to hear the incident from last week? The one where Mrs. Sterling calls her 5-year-old son stupid and a failure. I didn't wait for an answer. I clicked another file. The audio, just as clear, played. Keisha screaming, "Why are you so stupid? You can't do anything right." Miles whispering after I calmed him, "I wish you were my real mom, Grandma. Mommy is mean." Officer Chen closed his eyes, his face tight with pain. Officer Miller looked at his partner. He'd heard enough. He pulled out his official radio. "Dispatch," he said, his voice all business. "This is Miller, badge 2241. We have a situation at 14 Willow Creek. The original call was a 911 false report, but I'm going to need you to send a unit from Child Protective Services. We have a potential child endangerment situation. The mother? No. Keisha screamed, a real desperate animal sound this time. You can't. They're my children. You can't. David, she shrieked at her husband. Do something. David just stared, his world collapsing. A false report. CPS. Ma'am, Officer Miller said to Keisha, his voice hard as iron, you have the right to remain silent, and I strongly suggest you use it. We will be waiting right here until the CPS agent arrives. You are not to leave, and you are not to speak to your children. I stood up, my work here was done. I went to my room. I came out a moment later with a small pre-packed overnight bag I had prepared weeks ago. Brenda, Mom, where are you going? David whispered, his voice that of a terrified, lost little boy. I zipped the bag. I am leaving, David. I will be staying at a hotel, but I will be at my lawyer's office at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and I will be filing for emergency temporary custody of my grandchildren. And this, I patted my laptop which I was taking with me, is my evidence. All 1,200 hours of it. Keisha, David, you will be hearing from him. I walked to the front door past the two officers, past my hysterical weeping daughter-in-law, and past my son who had crumpled into a pathetic, broken heap. I walked out into the cool, clean evening air, free. Thank you for watching.